Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Heartwell dev stream, the live stream series where I continue to develop this adorable Souls-like action RPG with platforming mechanics and a branching narrative. If you find these dev streams interesting or helpful, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and boop that bell button to stay notified. Now, when we previously left off in development, we were placing more of the Cobras around, and we're actually getting pretty close to placing all the Cobras, at least in this lower portion of the dungeon. So basically what we have left is the 3 Cobras that need to be placed on platforms here. And all these Cobras don't have any nodes associated with them because they're just straight platforms. So once we do that, we're going to place the rest of the Cobrattles and Rattlesnakes in this half of the dungeon. And that will mean, following that will mean we'll probably have to place a few more enemies in this section right here, and then we'll have actually placed every single one of the non-boss enemies in the tutorial dungeon, which will be a huge accomplishment unto itself. After that, we are going to what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. And after we complete that, we'll work on placing some other things in the tutorial dungeon, like gates and items to collect and keys and things like that. So, all in all, hope to have a very productive stream tonight. Now, off stream, I have been busy. Those who have been on my Discord server will know that I've posted some times recently for the second boss that's in the tutorial dungeon. So, I was testing to see how long it took to defeat the boss using optimal damage setups for different combinations of weapons and stat allocations, and it was a lot of fun. I'm very, very excited for you all to get your hands on the demo, hopefully sometime later this year to test it out for yourself. So, let's see here. Next set of Cobras is going over here. Yep, here we are. Alright. So we have some Cobras with no nodes. I know we have some like that. Ultimate document. I want these Cobras to start at opposite ends of their respective platforms. Okie doke. First thing we'll do is define the starting nodes. That's where they're going to revert back to in situations where the player is not in the general area. And we will go from there. All right. Three, 8, 2, 4, 7, 6, 7. Okay. 3760, 609. Three, 6, 9, 6, 7, 6, 9. Alright, those are our starting coordinates. Let's hit defining. Hello, Copper Nicholson. Thanks for dropping by. How's it going? How's your vacation just so far? All my messages to be read as Crow Armbrust from Trails of Cold Steel. Oh my, what we got? Read a message as a Trails of Cold Steel character. Dear Antomicx, Copper Nicholson is currently unavailable. He's attending a night tour at Washington, D.C. I am accompanying him as a ghost. Yes, ghosts can be e-tourists. It's not like we have much else to do. Please have room service deliver my map to the top of our hotel. I have a score to settle with Ring Bean. You're going to a battle arena at the Washington Monument. Now I gotta go, and I'll be back with more pre-written messages later. See ya. I see, Copper Nicholson. I see. Well, hope you have fun at DC. Yep. Alright, so what do we got? We know that a previous no-node section was number 6. Alright. Okay, let's place that there. Activate this for now. Hop on over to this view. Okay. 2589 is... yeah, okay, it's those bounds. Yep. That's the bounds of the main area. One thing I have found that's useful off stream as of late, whether I'm writing lore for Heartwell or just need to get a bunch of information into a document to write down different ideas, I only now discovered that there's actually a tool. It's not listed here because I'm using Mozilla Firefox right now, but under tools, if you're using Google Chrome, there will actually be an option for a speech to text tool. And that lets you actually just talk into a microphone and Doodle will type it out immediately for you in a document. I found that to be super useful for jotting down ideas, because sometimes it's easier to explain something with your voice than it is to try and think about what you want to type and then type it out. Plus, it's I find it to be a lot easier if you have just a lot of information you need to put down all at once. The only drawback I've found so far is that it's not very good at picking up specific more specialized names or like unique made-up names. So that can be a little tricky, but I still need to press like the enter key to increment like lists and things like that. But beyond that, it's been very, very, very beneficial. So we'll do something like that. Yeah, so that way we can just a bit easier. Okay. Okay. Right. And that does so happen to be a z-axis I have too, and I just realized I just changed the... That is... that is the interest location for this thing. Whoops. Okay. No problem, that's an easy fix. Oh, I now just realized I was putting that into a previous area, because that might have confused the system. Not to worry, though. This seems to be all set up over here. Cool. All right. Got that one set up. Let's do the other two. Should be pretty similar to the others. Oh, right. Forgot that the y-axis coordinates are the same because it's just all these platforms are all in a row. So that actually makes this very convenient. Dope. Sleep node area 18 no longer exists. Boop. Watch out, this should be the last node area we need to define. Alright, we got that over there. We'll put this over here. We got our starting node. That's that. Now, let's start our business is to place the Cobras and test it out. Alrighty. That there. Next. This one down here. Now, there should be a Cobrattle there, but I'm just going to leave that alone for now. Just want to make sure that all the Cobras are working correctly. Then we will go from there. Okay, so save point is there. Let's just remove this wall for a second. Alrighty, chat. Testing time. Let's see. Do the Cobras work as intended? Let's find out. Alright, well, so far they're at least shooting their projectile, so that's good. Jump over here, what happens? Alright, it's chasing me. Jump away, goes back. Nothing weird happening. That's good. Cobra at the right elevation. Let's find out. Alright, elevation is correct. Let's check the other two. Okay, I think the elevation is correct. We got damage there. Let's try this one over here. Alright, looks good so far. Uh-oh. Stamina! So, at least the way one would be intended to come into this section, they would be coming from this direction, and then likely fall down here, and thus there would be a Cobrattle there shooting projectiles. It's meant to be a little bit of a trickier run, at least for the tutorial dungeon, but all about managing your stamina and trying to make use of what platforms you have, if the goal is just to run through it. Now, of course, if you want to fight through it, that's totally viable too. At least so far, those Cobras seem to be working correctly. Now, before I start placing new enemy types, however, more enemy types, however, I am going to check these Cobras over here, because when things have gone wrong, these have been typically the first ones to break. So let's just make sure that these ones are all working as intended. Alright, so far it seems to be finding me. Good. And that one seems to be finding me too. If I jump over here. Good. Okay, and they seem to be moving fairly independently of each other. Good, good, good. That's what we want to see. Find me? Let's let it can find me. Good. Alright, and the Cobra's down here. Seems to be working. Hello, Dretgor. Thanks for dropping by. How's it going, dude? Welcome, welcome. Great news, Dretgor. We just placed the last Cobras in this lower part of the tutorial dungeon. Which, my goodness, it's taking us how many streams to do this? We've been at this for a while, but yes, they're all placed. Well, all the Cobras are, at least. So now it's time to place the rest of the Rattlesnakes and Cobrattles, but those are much easier. To be fair, this is a pretty large dungeon. Yeah, I mean... I'm looking over just the map now, and this isn't even the full dungeon, it's just the lower half. I mean, there's this, there's the upper portion, and then there's a third portion. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it is a little large. At least by the standards of tutorial dungeons. I mean, compare this to, like, the Undead Asylum from Dark Souls 1, or the Graveyard in Dark Souls 3. Yeah, it's definitely better than those. But you know, that was the intent. Like, my intent with this tutorial dungeon... Yeah, the Asylum was dinky. I'll take that as a compliment, because my intent with this tutorial dungeon is I actually wanted it to feel like a dungeon and not like a tutorial. I mean, it is a tutorial. It's meant to teach the player a lot of things and hopefully get them to break bad habits early. But I was thinking, like, when I was making this, I'm like, what if I want the player to actually feel like, no, this is a legitimate dungeon. It's not just something you breeze through. It's actually, like, part of the grander scheme of things. Like, the Undead Asylum, as well designed as it is, you just kind of run through it as quick as you can and go from there. Whereas this, I mean, it's still the tutorial dungeon, but I'd hope that at least makes people, it lets all the weakest enemies in the game, these being the various snacks, get their time to shine, so to speak, and also teaches the player about just what kind of Metroidvania-ish level design they can expect. So all in all, I'm happy just with what may seem like a large, convoluted, circular maze that is the tutorial dungeon. What are your thoughts on it so far, Dretgor? Let's see. We need various enemies. I say we start with the Cobrattles, then move on to the Rattlesnakes. Okay, So we'll start here and work our way backwards. Oh, before I forget, might as well make these invisible again. There's no point. You think a large tutorial dungeon is fair in this case? Okay, do tell, Breckboard, do tell. No, not that. I think this is the line of sight stand, so make that visible. Like, you gotta teach the player not only combat, but also the way the game handles progression, like with the Metroidvania stuff. True, but I mean, counterpoint to that, Raptor, it'd be very, very easy to still, I mean, Dark Souls 1 also does that. With, like, you know, the Undead Asylum has circular level design and, like, you know, the one-way doors and all that. But it's still super, super, super small. So I wanted, when I was building this dungeon, I really wanted to feel like not like it's just here to teach you things. Like, I want the tutorial dungeon to feel meaningful, if that made sense. Like, the Undead Asylum is only as meaningful as the sense as it's like you escape from there and then your actual adventure begins. I want people here to feel like, no, yes, this is the tutorial dungeon, but this is the true start of the adventure. Even if you have to get out of here, it's still, if you're already into the adventure. So that's why I was really going with here, and I hope I hope I succeeded. Fair enough. Thanks, Redport. All right, rattle. I'm noticing a lot of these. I think, okay, this section has 2 Cobrattles. This section has 3. This being a proper level and not just a tutorial. Exactly. I mean, it is a tutorial, but you get the idea. I want it to feel like a proper level, even if it's with the simplest enemies in the game. Because it's literally sets the stage for everything you know, just the general everything you can expect in the rest of the game. And I don't want to do it. Okay. Let's get those Cobrattles placed. I can't help but get a little giddy being able to do this now, actually build these levels, because it's, I've had a vision for this for a very, very long time, and to finally be able to bring it to life, so to speak, is very, very gratifying. I mean, between this and the bosses being functionally programmed and, you know, making good progress on the dialogue, and even just the other night making some headway with the music composition, feels good. It feels real, real good. And it's easy to forget that I've been working on this project since March of 2020. It's been a long time coming, dang, to this point. But on the flip side, I'm happy that we're making an opportunity out of the unexpected delay of Jedi Survivor's release. So, because Jedi Survivor's release was delayed till the end of April, we'll be doing quite a number of Heartwell dev streams until that game releases. So, I'm very excited for that as well. Alrighty. I think I remember you mentioning, Drekor, that you and some friends were playing Minecraft recently. Are you guys still doing that? And have you guys found any new fun stuff to do on your Minecraft server? This will be placed there. That's Cobrattles. Okay, we need 4 over here. Okay, no, fair enough. 4 there, 1 there. Wow, that's all. Okay. In that case, yeah, just 5 more. All right, easy enough. You've been entertaining yourself with other things these days. Oh, do tell, Breckboard, do tell. When you have some free time, what do you typically do these days? Start your 3rd playthrough of Dark Souls 3, and you're also working on my game. Awesome. All right. Well, what kind of playthrough are you doing with Dark Souls 3, and also how's the progress with the game then? Okay. Our spear only playthrough of Dark Souls 3. Ooh, cool. Spears are interesting in Dark Souls because I feel like they can be really, really, really good for DPS and like keeping yourself at a distance, but at the same time, they're a little more precise than some of the other melee weapons just because they're thrusting weapons, so you actually have to be on target, whereas with like a slashy weapon, you need to be a little less accurate and still hit something. And since you mentioned spears, might as well bring up how I intend to balance spears in Heartwell. My current thought process for the spears is to make them like the high DPS sort of melee weapon, where you can attack with them like very, very, very quickly, and they have, solid enough damage to where the DPS like is among the higher end of melee weapons in this game. But the drawback, of course, is that it being a thrusty weapon, its attack, I mean, you see how Heartwell is structured. You can imagine, like, having a thrusty weapon, you wouldn't, okay, that's an axe, you wouldn't have, like, a big swipe like that. It would be more like just a little poke, and it would be in, like, the various directions. So you'd have to really line yourself up right to make it work. But if you get yourself lined up right, then it's like for a singular target that's like very few things compare to it, would be the idea. And something else I found helpful, Rektor, that you might find interesting for your game's development is, while I was trying to come up with some enemy ideas for some of the later areas in Heartwell, I started looking through my list of various weapons that Dorothy could unlock and where those weapons are acquired. And in some cases, I've actually been able to basically adapt my thoughts on develop new enemy ideas based off of, okay, if a certain weapon's in this area, then it's pretty likely that there's probably enemies in this area that actually use something similar to that weapon. And that's actually been a nice little bit of it's helped with brainstorming and stuff. So I'm not sure how much that would translate to your game, since I think the way you describe your game is a bit more of like a puzzle platformer. It helps how the world together nicely. That's a good thing. Yeah, and you're right, Dark Souls also does that. So let's see, what was I gonna say? Yep. Dark Souls also does that, and I think that Dark Souls was actually kind of the thing that kind of seeped into my mind to think of that. I'm like, wait, in Dark Souls, a lot of the weapons you can get are actually physically used by the enemies you encounter in the world, or at least like the more humanoid kind of enemies. And because of that, it's like, oh, well, in that case, we have all these weapons, might as well, make them actually used against you as opposed to just something you find. My game, it won't work. Your game is rather simple in that sense. It doesn't have a huge selection of weapons. It's a bit more like, say, Zelda or Metroid. Fair. That's perfectly fair. Just makes sense. The only caveat I have to say that is, like, as long as you can justify why those various even if there are fewer weapons, justifying why they're in specific places beyond just, oh, it's an unlock because video game progression. That's important too, because you can actually kind of tie the weapon into the lore a little bit. I like doing that with Heartwell especially. I even, I've adopted the whole Dark Souls-y weapon descriptions notion or idea from the Souls games, because I really, really like that idea. So yeah, maybe that'll help with your role building a little bit, correct? Where it's like, okay, I have this idea for like a late game weapon upgrade. Great. Why is it in the place that it is? You know, ask yourself that question and see where it takes you. And I believe that's all the Cobrattles placed in this part of the dungeon. Now let's get us some Cobras. I'm sorry, not some Cobras, some Rattlesnakes. Which we will need a lot of. Alright, 4 down there, 2 over there. A lot in the kitchen. Let's start with these 2. All right. Okay. Oh, whoops. No, there, right here. Alright, now those rattlesnakes placed. Now we got down here. I think that many rattlesnakes might be a bit overkill, especially for an earlier area. Then I have 3 over here, and let's say 4 there, so that's about 7. Okey-doke. Something I have been thinking about with like the later things in Heartwell's development. So I found myself when I was creating a lot of the ideas for some of the later areas is trying to think of different either enemy types that won't require too much pathfinding, or trying to rethink of like how the level design might have to be structured to require less pathfinding. So that's something I will definitely be thinking about as I move forward with, you know, layer areas with obviously ever really more complex enemies and ever really more complex level design, is trying to make sure that we cut down a little bit on the pathfinding just so that it's a bit easier to implement. I'll also say that I've found a surprising amount of ways to make enemies that kind of stand in one place seem different from each other. Whether that's with different attack patterns or different unique attributes. Been a fun idea generating experiment, so to speak. Yeah. So my hope is after the what's that record? Well, that's probably all I have to deal with. What, you mean pathfinding or something else? Like, may have our dungeons and levels like. We'll need enemies to fill the same roles as enemies from previous dungeons. And you're saying so, and so in order to maintain a decent variety, you have to give them a new mechanic or more strength, etc. True. Well, still following the same fundamental principles. But honestly, I think of that as, I find it fun to do that, because it's like, you might say, oh, well, here's a couple more enemies that are stationary, so aren't they the same? No, because the new enemies, they might have, you know, different or faster attacks. They might have different resistances. There's, you know, they might deal a different damage type. There might be some other attribute to them that makes them stand out compared to the previous ones. Yep. So the real challenge, I think, isn't just coming up with a bunch of different enemy types. I think it's more so like making sure the enemies are in places that, one, make sense for them, and two, that's in the same areas. You're not getting duplicate enemy types, so to speak. So for example, let's say for the sake of argument that I made another stationary enemy type that also fires a ranged projectile. Generally speaking, I probably wouldn't want to use that second ranged stationary enemy in the same, we'll say, little room as a Cobrattle, because they serve very, very similar functions. It's just one probably, unless like the point is to like contrast between the two. But I feel like if you're at that level of similarity, it's probably better to try and separate them just a smidge, or make sure that they have enough different between them, whereas like even if they're fundamentally the same, like stationary ranged projectile opponent, make sure that some other attributes of them are different enough so that it doesn't feel like you're just fighting just a reskin of the same enemy. That's what I would want to avoid, is just like the whole notion of the reskin. And I don't mean reskin as in like reskinning like just different palette swap. Because, believe it or not, one of my enemy types in one of the later areas outside of the tutorial dungeon actually will use one of these snakes as sort of a base for its appearance, which I'll then, give it a different coat of paint, so to speak. However, just because it looks like a different style, that doesn't mean I'll give it like the same attack patterns or anything. I would actually want to give it like more unique attack patterns. So even if it is like the same, base pixel art before you adjust colors and stuff, it would actually do something different. That's it's not a major pet peeve, more like a minor pet peeve from like especially older games. You would see a lot of situations where you would get later in the game and you would literally just see the same sprite doing the exact same thing. except it is a different color and has more health. And that's the only difference. Yeah, exactly. They just swap the colors, give it more health, and call it a day, not really thinking about the mechanics. So my thought is, if you're going to color swap a previous enemy type, at least make them do something a little bit different. It doesn't have to be much, but just something. You know? And by a little bit different, I mean, it could even be something as simple as like, oh, well, maybe it's a colors. Let's see, what's a popular video game? I'll use Shining Force as an example, because Shining Force is notorious for color swapped normal enemies. I think it's, I think it was, there's like these elven enemies in Shining Force that like, they carry a bow and arrow, and they can deal a decent amount of damage from a range. And I think the first version of them is called the Sniper, and then the second version is called like the Dark Elf or something. But it's like, functionally, they do the exact same thing. Like the Master Mages becoming regular enemies after the Master Mage boss fight. Yeah, that's true. That's also, I did not appreciate that. But here's the thing. That's actually a great thing to bring up, turning former bosses into normal enemies. Like, I get the idea of making former bosses normal enemies to make you feel like more powerful, but there are cleverer ways to do it than just saying, oh, well, yeah, you beat it once, now here's a whole bunch of them, have fun. No. But it's funny you mentioned the Master Mages. The Master Mage is actually a good example of how to do a reskin at least somewhat right. I know Dark Souls 1 does that too. Like Tauros and Cobras. True. But getting back on topic with Shining Force. The reason why I think like the Snipers versus Dark Elves are a bad reskin, whereas like the Master Mage and like the I think it was like the High Mage or something, like, so there's like a Master Mage and there's like a couple other Mage variants. The reason why I think the Mage variants are better than the like Archer variants is that the Archer variants, they do the exact same thing. Like, nothing about the way they attack is any different. They have the exact same attack range, and, you know, the only difference is, like, they bumped up the attack stat a little bit, and they bumped up the health a bit. That's it. However, with the Master Mages, while they, you know, they adjust the health, too, the key difference with the Master Mages and their reskins is that each of them have a different spell. And the spells in Shining Force, while a lot of them do damage, some of them have like different areas of effect and different effectiveness against different units. So to me, it's like, that's better because it's like, okay, it's a reskin, but at least you can see they're actually doing different attacks and it's not just the same attack. Like, I think that's better, personally. Like, a bit more acceptable. What are your thoughts, Rekor? All right. All right, we need 3 over here, a bunch over here. All right, start with these 3. Oh, yeah, exactly. Like, you know what would have been cool for, like, the Archer variants? Like, could you imagine if with the Archer variants, like, what they could have done is they could have just given it, like, a little bit, of extra range on its attack. Like, maybe you make it so that instead of attacking only 2 spaces away, it could attack 3 or 2. At least then you could see, okay, that's a difference. Now you have to think about positioning a little more, so that's some way to distinguish it from the previous Archer enemy, you know? So, like even if it's a reskin and, you know, it's still, like, attacking with an arrows, at least then it's like, okay, this one has a bit more range, so I need to think a little more carefully on how we approach it, like, a bunch of them. Similarly, I think, what's another enemy type that was... Oh, the Rune Knights, in the old, in Shining Force 1. Like, those were reskins, I think, a couple of times, at least, you know, there's the original variant, and then there's like the variants in the, I think, chapter 3 or chapter 4. The sad thing about that is my favorite version of the Rune Knights is just the one you see in like chapter 1, just because at that point in the game they're so terrifying. It's like these strong, like, armored centaurs with like these huge lances, and they look at you all menacingly. It's like they're legitimately terrifying because they can just absolutely destroy you early game, especially if you have to fight more than one. But it's like the reskinned versions, they feel lesser because they didn't really make them do anything different, and by that point you're stronger, so even if they have better stats, they're not that much of a threat. So one thing I think they could have done to make like the reskinned Rune Knights later in the game better is, you know, the original Rune Knights just had a lance. What if you gave like the reskinned Rune Knights, they have the lance, but they also have a spear? Just like how in your centaur units can swap between a spear and a lance as a free action, why not give them that ability too? So it's like, okay, it's the same thing with like the archer reskin argument. It's like, okay, still reskin, but at the very least they can do something a little bit different that makes them a bit more tricky to deal with. Like, at least there's more to the enemy than just being a strong variation. Agreed. Hi, Copper. How's it going? Yeah, we get that. Let's set these rattlesnakes placed. Read a message as Sonic the Hedgehog. What goes up must come down, yet my feet don't touch the ground. See the world spinning upside down, a mighty crash without a sound. Now, I can feel your every rage. Step aside, I'll turn the page. Breaking through your crazy maze like a laser beam, my eyes on you. Watch me rule the night away, watch me save the day. Feel my storm staying close, heading your way. Sonic heroes. Find you, confine you, define your reign. Sonic heroes, setting the stage for a hero's parade. I remember that song. That was a fun song. Also, a very, very fun game. Very, very flawed game, but still a very fun game. Have you ever played Sonic Heroes, Gretcourt? All you need to know, if you haven't played Sonic Heroes, all you need to know is that it is a lovable mess, and that's the best way I can describe it. It's you basically play through, how many stages were there? Like 12? Like, you play through like these 12 very long stages with 4 different teams. But the unfortunate thing is that 3 of the teams are basically just slight changes in difficulties for the same stage, and only one of the other teams actually has any notable differences in what they actually do on the stage. And then once you basically play through the game 4 times, then you actually get to unlock the final boss, where you have to use all the teams to defeat the final boss. I feel like there was more they could have done with it, but it's still fun because at least the levels are, for the most part, pretty engaging. And they're definitely on the longer side in terms of Sonic levels, especially for 3D Sonic levels. But at the same time, most of the bosses were pretty straightforward and not too difficult to figure out how to handle. Though the final boss was really, really amazing. But that's a bit of an aside, I think. Okay, how many do we need up here? Need 12. Okay. Alrighty. Let's set these enemies placed. Yeah, back on the topic of respins, I think a good example of Dark Souls 1 actually has examples of both good and bad respins. Like, I think no better place to point that out than the two variations of the Asylum Demon. So, in my opinion, I think the Stray Demon is a good restin, and the Demon Fire Sage is a bad restin. Like, the way I see the Demon Fire Sage is I think it has, like, one attack that's different from the Asylum Demon, and that's, like, I think it can do some kind of explodey attack. Like, does the Fire Sage have an explodey attack, or is that just all, like, cosmetic? Because I genuinely can't remember. I mean, there's roots, but I'm just trying to remember, like, was there, like, any difference in attack patterns between the Demon Fire Sage and the Asylum Demon? Because I think, like, if there was, it was some kind of explodey attack that didn't do too often. Okay, so there was an explodey attack, but the thing about the Stray Demon is, I think okay. So slight variation in how it behaves, but all in all, it's like, maybe it has one new attack-ish, and that's it. Like, so if it, whereas the Stray mostly does the explosion, and yeah, sure. So, the thing about the Demon Fire Sage is, I think with bosses, if you're going to do a restin boss, you better have a darn good reason for doing a restin boss, shall we say, because it's one thing for, like, normal enemies, because you could argue there'd be variations of normal enemies, like, I get that makes sense. And you wouldn't have to change too much, just make sure you do something beyond just health and pure damage to make them distinct. But with a boss, I feel like you probably need at least a couple of different attack patterns to really make them stand out. And that's why I think the Stray is a good restin, whereas the Demon Fire Sage is a bad restin. Because in my view, the Demon Fire Sage has like one attack that's different from the Asylum Demon, whereas the Stray Demon, like, the Stray Demon almost feels like it has a completely different moveset, and that's because its focus is more on, like, much slower but much heavier hitting attacks with, like, the explosions or just the various magic stuff. Yeah, that's what shows the running out of time, so they had to rush things up in the Demon Runes. Yeah, I understand that. Like, I understand that, like, the latter half of Dark Souls was plagued with development problems. I'm just talking about this, like, in a vacuum. Did I copy over too many? I seem to have an extra rattlesnake. I must have miscounted. And no, that's... Yes, okay, I did miscount. Okay. Delete that. Alright. Yeah. Exactly. Whereas, like, I feel like the fact that I can, like, with the Stray Demon, like, it's the different attacks are, again, it has multiple different attacks. I think that makes it a reskin because it feels like a different boss, even if it looks very similar to the Asylum Demon. And I also find, I just genuinely find the Stray Demon harder than the Demon Fire Sage, personally, and that's probably because in most of my Souls playthroughs, I don't level up Vigor that much. So I don't have like a ton of health, and that means like the Stray Demon's magical attack can just one-shot me. So the Stray Demon always felt harder than that. But if you have a lot of health, then the Stray Demon isn't as bad, because at least if you make a mistake, it's a fairly slow boss. Ah, fair enough. I mean, and the thing is, during our Dark Souls challenge run, we beat the Stray Demon with like the butterfly shield. That was a fun battle. I still remember how it's like I didn't even know the butterfly shield existed until we did that challenge. And I found out, like, this is actually a cool shield. Is it the most practical thing in the world? No, but that's not the point. It's meant to be a fun weapon. Like, just having a shield that can actually do a ranged magic attack was really, really cool. I don't really think there's been too many things like that. I mean, I'm trying to think, does Elden Ring have shields? I mean, actually, no, I take that back. Elden Ring has some shields with ranged attacks, but nothing that's like making the shield shoot like a lunar crescent beam of something like that. It was definitely unique, especially for its time. Yeah, when we were doing that Dark Souls challenge run, basically as soon as I was doing research on the shields, the choice was going to be between either getting the butterfly shield or using the bone wheel shield. But concerning the bone wheel shield is a random drop, whereas the butterfly shield, it can actually, you know, it's a boss memory something. I figured that's it being a boss memory something would be much easier to get and less of a hassle than just trying to, you know, defeat a bunch of bone skeletons and hope for the best. Because the bone skeletons just delete everything that comes in their path. So, and they're not exactly close to any bonfires that would make them very farmable. But yeah. Alright, chat, we placed a bunch of Rattlesnakes and Cobrattles. I'm just going to activate the... I'm going to make their collision boxes visible just to make sure I have one for each one of them. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see what we got, chat. I did. Well, chat, are you ready to test the areas? Because it begins. Alright, first little bonus area. So, the goal here is to get up to that section there. We can hop over there. And some, again, little bits of level design here. Since this is an earlier area, I purposely left a platform here just to teach the player, you know, you don't have to just jump up there, especially next to a rattlesnake. Not necessarily, like, pay attention to the level design. So, I mean, we can, because we know what we're doing. But just for, like, especially since this is, like, super early, since, you know, a player could theoretically, this could be, like, one of the first paths they choose. They walk down here, there's the little intro to the Cobra. I want to give them just a little bit of an option in case they're, if they want to be a bit more methodical here. Yep, exactly. Do a little tutorial for them. Just say, hey, look at the platforming, see if there's anything you can make use of, since a lot of the later rooms aren't this generous. Yep, that's a good little tutorial. You knew exactly what you should do. Exactly. And it's like, there's nothing to... it's just, but I'm part of, like, teaching the player various things. Anyway, that's an aside. Let's hop up here. Alright, and I'm doing this in a non-combat stance just because I know, like, all these sections are quite doable if I defeat them. I'm just trying to see, like, if... Ouch! Now! Now! Okay. So I know if someone's like trying to speedrun this game and like get all items or something, they probably wouldn't fight everything. Yep. Well, I mean, to be fair, you may say 225 hit is a lot of damage, but at the same time, you realize you start with 500 health. So the thing about like the Rattlesnake, the Cobras, and Cobrattles is while they all deal different amounts of damage, the funny thing is the way I programmed it is every single one of them destroys the player in 3 hits with no level up in health. So even though they deal different amounts of damage, I purposely made it that way so they all it's basically a 3-hit kill on the player unless the player upgrades health. But because they deal different amounts of damage, that means that a player who's investing in health will get, you know, benefit, so to speak, against different enemy types at different points to try and make it feel like some of those more incremental increases are doing more for them moving forward. So, like, I think it's I don't know if it's the Cobra or the Rattlesnake that deals the lowest amount of damage. But whichever it is, that would be the enemy that the player would first see the effects of, like, increasing their health. Would be like, oh, hey, look, I can take an extra hit from that enemy. That's great. That sort of thing. Now with this over here, not too bad so far. Yeah, I think I put that there just as making more of an obstacle for the player, make the player think, okay, do I defeat this thing? Wait, what? Something is not right here. Da, 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 da. This is why we have testing. I think I know what's wrong, though. I don't think there's programming something for Rattlesnake at a height of 3. That's a pretty easy fix. Now this is interesting because the player would have to... Ow. 175. Okay, yeah, so Rattlesnake would be the first thing to... That's that, but yeah, right here, it's like, do you jump for it, or do you attack it from a distance? The player makes choices. But, you know, all in all, not too bad of a side area. Okay. Well, before we go into the rest of the dungeon, clearly we need to rectify that. So... Okay, Rattlesnake code. Something I have not looked at in a very long time. Yep, okay, just as I thought, we don't have the thingy for, in the z-axis coordinate correctly for a level 3 tile. That's alright, that's an easy, like I said, that's an easy fix. Okay, so where's... There we go. Level 3, level 3, level 3, level 3, level 3. Okay. Let's test that out. Alright. Okay, I think. Yep, okay, that works as expected. You know, something I just thought of, because I want to. Where is it? What if we purposely put this rattlesnake close enough to the edge where the player decides to try and jump for it and they miss? Or like when on the rattlesnake, they go falling off. I think that... Let's do it. Okay, let's try this out. Oh wow, it's like, I landed right on the edge. Okay, let's, one more to the left should do it. One more to the right. Whoops. Things have happened. Whoops. No. Okay. We can let this from the side. What happens? Oh, perfect. This is exactly what we wanted. Just send the player down if they mess up. Teach the player. The player does that. Yes! Perfect. Okay. That'll do for that little section there. Now let's go investigate here. So if I go to the left, obviously get stuck. Go to the right, I get stuck. If I go down the middle, I should be able to fit, right? Yeah. Okay, good. And then, of course, teaching the player to tap that way. I need to change that, how that works. So that's not... that's another side. I'll just add a note to that. Remove fits rattlesnake, damn it. Implement damage calculation and status put rework. Alright, back to testing. Actually, you know what, chat? I think this will be a good spot to take our first break. So, don't go anywhere, guys. I'll be right back, and we'll do some more testing when we come back. So, be right back. Alright, chat. Welcome back, Relay. Let's test these areas. Okay. Let's see here. So, with this area, it's just a question of avoiding falling down there. I actually want to check down there just to make sure there aren't any places where, like, the players would get, like, stuck in horribly. Well, this is a little intimidating. We're surrounded on three sides by 3 rattlesnakes. Alright. I find that mildly amusing. Okay, so. Okay, that's forcing me that way. Ow. Alright. Yeah, I like that it does force me to zigzag a smidge. Okay. Can I actually... Okay, I can fit there. Good. Okay, I think everything here makes sense so far. I want to test that rattlesnake. No! Ouch. You know, I just realized the way I set up the rattlesnake's damage at 175, I think that means that if a player were to I think if the player invests like 2 points in vitality, which would increase their health to 540. Does that work out? Yeah. So if with just 2 investment points in vitality, the player would actually be able to take an extra hit from the rattlesnakes, because that would push them over the threshold, since the rattlesnakes only deal 175 damage per hit. Okay. Ow. And we got one more combo. That's alright. The rattlesnakes are just saying hello. Okay, that section looks good. Rattle. Ow. Not too bad. In that section. Okay. We know the Cobra works. What happens if I go... Oh, if you want to bet there, that's... So that works. Run over here. Okay, so there's space to walk there, that's good. Oh. Uh-oh. I think we found a problem, chat. Alright, let's move the Cobra out just a little bit. enough space there. Yeah, because that would lead to weird situations like that. Okay. Checking out, you're investigating some Godot tutorials. No problems, Redcore. No worries, Redcore. What you looking up? Just out of curiosity. Oh, right, we want to just this route. That's better. I want to move these Rattlesnakes so there just has to be a little more zigzag. Although, I also want to make sure the player can't get trapped. So that's important to us as well. Cobra, hello. Oh, that is very, very silly. Not much I can do about that, at least with the way the Pathfinder is currently programmed. Okay, then we come down here. Make sure the Cobrattles down here all make sense. Okay, so far so good. Whoops. No worries, we will try that section again. It's all for the testing. Do I want to leave that in there? That is the question. It is technically in line of sight. Probably not. It's probably a little... I had to defeat the purpose of that corner. Okay, it can still hit me. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now there actually is a corner of somewhat safety. I still want to move up just a little bit so we're not having those situations where the Cobrattle can still hit us like that. Alright. Let's see here. Ow. Okay, it's just not see it just doesn't the way the projectile stance works. At least here it's a little more forgiving to the player base I don't have there. Alright. Well, that'll do. Let's see the next area then. Get over here, hooray. Let's test this section up here. So we already know we can do this section with the Cobras with some well-timed jumps. Did I have a Rattlesnake Cobrattles up there originally? No, I did not. That would probably make this section a little too chaotic. Alright. So we have our Cobras. fall down here. Silliness ensues. Oh, ooh. Send us upward that time, alright. Interesting. Question for anyone in chat right now: is the sprint cost a little too lenient right now? I was just thinking about that because I realize it costs way less stamina to like sprint a distance than it does to, for example, dash, and the dash only takes you so far. It is faster than sprinting, but sprinting is still fairly agile. I almost wonder if maybe I should, like, I don't know, double the sprint cost or something just to give dash to Shane a bit more parity. Maybe that won't really be knowable until the demo's out and people can say, hey, sprinting's a little too easy right now. That's just something I was thinking of, because I think the jump is in a good spot, but like the dynamic between dashing and sprinting, I'm not sure I have that quite figured out yet. All right. Okay, still locked there. Might want to move that one Cobrattle. Let's say there. Okay, I like that. I like that. The double T. Anyway. So far, so good. That still does damage. Looks like the Cobrattle wasn't reworked in this frame either, so I'll need to add that to our to-do list. Alright, so that just leaves one more run. Oh boy. I gotta look at this room, chat. We have the 3 Cobras, we have a Cobrattles, and we have lots of Rattlesnakes on the bottom. I say we start with testing the lower route, and then we test the, well, first we test IS up here. Okay, that's good. I like that. I mean, I made it. It's just a question of, so it actually fell down here. They have to either attack these rattlesnakes or attack the rattle. But here they'd be relatively safe. Might want to move that Cobrattle up. Okay, move that Cobrattle up just a little bit. Okay. The rattlesnakes are in a good spot. Okay, need to move that one. That one needs to move a little to the left, and then we'll be good. Alrighty. Good. Cool. Alright. Let's test this out. Okay, I like this. Good little test of the player's platforming. This dungeon keeps staying cooler. Also, go on, Redcore, go on. Yeah, I like this as sort of like the last little section. It's like, okay, if you're trying to rush through this, did you learn positioning and the importance of that? Then you're on spot working on your game for today, play some games. Alright, sounds good, Redcore. Have fun. Oh, you're watching the stream. No worries, Darkport. Thanks. Thanks for dropping by, and appreciate the lurk. Have fun playing, I'm assuming, Dark Souls 3. Well, regardless, have fun playing the games, Darkport. Alright, chat. So, the good news, chat. The right side of the dungeon, at least with the enemies, is all placed. So all that leaves is the center part of the dungeon. So what does that entail? All that basically entails is we need to place some... Let's see. We actually need to do a smidge of planning. By that I mean right here, there isn't really anything. So my thought would be some more Cobrattles. With it. One here. Usually put one. Yeah, I think that'll work for that section. I don't know why there's Cobrattles here. That makes very little sense. Okay, let's try that. So I need a lot of rattlesnakes. Some of this is definitely left over from earlier development. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, cool. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, 20. Alrighty. Let's see here.
One to the left. Right. Did I must count again? Thought we needed 20 here. Alright. Well, I can always put the remaining rattlesnakes elsewhere. Alright. So we need 9 more. All right. Those are placed. Let's move these around. That's all the rattlesnakes in this section, so that just leaves Cobrattles. How many do we need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright. Here. Read a message as Milliam. What goes up must come down, yet my feet don't touch the ground. Seeing the world spinning upside down. I'm mighty fresh without a sound. I can feel your every rage. Step aside, I'll turn the page. Breaking through your crazy maze like a laser beam, my eyes on you. Watch me rule the night away, watch me save the day. Feels my storm is getting close, heading your way. Sonic heroes, bind you, confine you, defying your reign. Sonic heroes, setting the stage for a hero's parade. Yay! I see someone likes Sonic Heroes. That's fine. Like I said earlier, it's Sonic Heroes is a lovable mess. That's the best way I can describe the game. I think that's all of them. Alright, that means it is testing time. Yes. Okay, I did not have the space right there. Okay, everything else is fine. Well, yeah, spacing, it's there, that's the problem. Oh. Whoops. That should be enough space, I think. Oh, I see, Copper Nicholson. Are you enjoying your visit to Washington, D.C.? Good. Right now, just testing collision stat. Oh, that's interesting. I can't hear that. I think I want to rectify that. That should make that no longer cheesable. Oh. Wow. Wow. You can move the other one just a smidge to the right. Let's test out. Which way is this one? Alright, we can walk there, that's good. Did not manage my stamina there well. Okay, I know we've been here before, chat. I just want to check something.
good. Maybe so we want to be just a smidge to the right. There we go. Alright, that looks good. Then up here we have the Cobrattle up there. Defeat that Cobrattle. Alright, then with the Cobrattle have a little bit more health. Yep. Okay. So you can go over here just fine. Let's test this section. Stand here. Then we have to try and run through it. Okay, so we can run through that, no problem. I was about to say that any rules we could get stuck. Let's find out. Cobra? Oh, that's funny. Ow. Oh yeah, that one. Okay. Oh, that is not what we want. I'm gonna need to fix that. Okay. That works out. Test out that rattlesnake right there. Yep, definitely has a really big rattlesnake. Is that Cobrattle in a problematic spot? Let's find out. At least there it seems to be alright, so we'll leave that be. Ready? So I think that means the only thing left to test is this tunnel right here, and then we'll be good. Whoops, did not give enough sufficient spacing there. At least in my maneuvering there. Alright, we're good. Now just get over there.
doable. Requires some jumping, but otherwise doable. Let's just try to get rid of this one to. Just make sure that there's no like weird platforming shenanigans. The Rattlesnakes. So far, so good. Okay. As a test, let's make sure that Cobrattle didn't respawn. I don't think it respawned, which is good, because it shouldn't be, as we defeated it before. Yep, okay, it's... Then if we go back to the save point, it should respawn after that. Yep, there it is. Excellent. Alrighty, chat. Well, it's been a long time coming, but this lower floor has all its enemies placed. Look at that. It's starting to become more and more the dungeon that I've envisioned. We have our Rattlesnakes, we have our Cobrattles, we have our Cobras. It's all in a nice, large, mixture of different situations and sections. I like it. Let's place everything back where it should be. Double check to make sure about that. Alright, chat. Let's do it. I'm gonna take a quick break and then we'll do probably a little bit more tile mapping and then probably call it a night. All in all, very productive so far, so don't go anywhere, guys. I will be right back.
Alright, chat, welcome back, everybody. So, what I'm thinking I'll be doing at this point of the stream is I'm going to outline like the next steps we need to take with building the tutorial dungeon, since we have been on enemy placement for a very long time. But thankfully, I think we've reached the end of enemy placement and the beginning of placing the other functional stuff in the tutorial dungeon. So, let's go over that. Yep, okay, so it's going to be picking up from this. So all this is all completed. There's the bold. Well, use some strike-through test if that's possible, and maybe not. No. Okay. In that case. So, we have, in terms of discrete tasks, test all areas in the lower dungeon. That'll be for last. We need to actually place all the items first. So, we need to place them in the lower dungeon. Same thing with the upper dungeon. We're also going to have to add list all remaining tile brainstorm all finish all tile sets for the upper and lower dungeon. Brainstorm what would be at each location, create new tile sets as needed. Oh, the cherry blossoms are in full bloom. That's awesome. I've heard they're very pretty. Place all tile sets in the tile. Map editor. Copy over all tile maps to the background, to the backdrop objects. Upper and lower wall. After that, it'll be add all lore bits. That's in the upper and lower dungeon. Test each lore bit to see if it provides wisdom, the correct amount of wisdom XP. Presents the correct dialogue and character portrait. To avoid spoilers, identify dialogue as follows. Or bit 1-1, or bit 2, etc. All right. And the next thing to test would be to place all stair frame transition objects in the upper when the player reaches these objects. A transition between frames. Test to make sure they all go to the correct frame. Alright. Let's see, is there anything else? Okay, wisdom XP, lore bits. Oh, right, there was one other major thing. Primarily need to finish the exits. Okay. Yeah, that's. I'm amazed that we got it down to a list that small, but I'm glad. That's good progress. All right. So I think what I'll do to wrap things up today is let's place just a little bit more stuff here. There's a tile mapping, then we can go from there. Right, the added layer. All right. Okay, put that over there. Alright. Alright. Move this over here. Righty, let's put that there. Definitely I need to make some pixel art here. I'll add that to the to-do list. Create a wall tile with an upper for situations where two that's one more time on upper and lower edge for situations where two very close okay. Outer and inner corner.
All right. Ready? Let's put this over here. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. There we go.
Alrighty, I think for now that'll do. I purposely left a lot of these blank because I'm thinking we'll want to have actual objects here as opposed to just more elevated walls and platforms. So, something to think about for a future dev stream. All in all, chat, I think this was a really productive dev stream. We finally placed all the enemies in the lower dungeon, and yeah, I'm really happy with the progress we made today. And I'm very much looking forward to our dev stream marathon in the lead up to Jedi Survivor. But anyway, everyone, if you're watching us on Twitch, feel free to stick around for a raid. But if you're watching us on YouTube, you like what you saw, please consider subscribing on YouTube. It's free to subscribe on YouTube. You can always change your mind later, and it's a great way to show support. And if you're watching on YouTube, I hope you have an amazing night.